Markus, how do you see the molybdenum market shaping up this year in Europe particularly, but the rest of the world as well?
Well, yeah, when you look at the European market, it will be a transition year with a totally two-sided market development, which means basically stagnation in the strong countries like Germany, Sweden, all these countries where the mechanical engineering and process equipment industry is strong and where you have global players, but also very little growth there. On the other side, we are having downside risks in some of the countries, and particularly to mention here is Italy, which could bring the moly consumption this year in Europe even into a slight negative figure overall. So for 2012 particularly, we are not too bullish.
And what factors are weighing heavily? How much is the European debt crisis weighing heavily on consumption demand at the moment?
Not directly, but indirectly through these austerity programs and so on. It is, and also the let's say the banks being still to some extent risk averse. So financing big projects is a problem still in Europe, and particularly, as I said, in these countries which have these enormous debt problems.
Are there any areas in Europe that are showing any positive signs of demand, any particular sectors at all?
Well, equipment for oil and gas, for example, which is quite important also for molybdenum. That is a positive. For example, we expect this year the North Sea market for molybdenum to double to last year's. There's so much activity there. And as you know, there are some special stainless duplex, etc., going in there, which are molybdenum intensive. So there are some bright spots, but unfortunately, let's say the weak parts outweigh the bright spots for 2012.
You do a lot of extensive research, which we've seen at presentations in the last couple of years. What has surprised you so far this year in the research you've been doing?
Well, this year the surprise, and also in 2011, was the process equipment industry. So there were more activities in chemical process equipment, for example. Also, even we saw some new refineries being built. Even, at the moment there are now 8 power plants, coal-fired power plants, being under construction in Germany. So this was all against what you read in the newspapers. There was more activity in projects in 2011, and some of these projects reach into 2012. But what I fear a little bit is the next wave of investment here, that this might be pushed back a little bit to 2013-14.
And finally, for the rest of the world, how do you see the molybdenum market shaping up?
Okay, there's a general slowdown throughout the world. I just come back from China, where I seldomly seen the big players there being so bearish. So there is a significant slowdown in many things. Partly it's wanted by the government, partly it is due to some saturation effects already. But the other growth basins, which will, let's talk about bright spots here. India will continue to grow this year, probably slightly below double-digit figures. This year, after a relatively weak year in Brazil last year, we will see more activity in Brazil and Latin America, so that's a growth basin. And I believe, well, the Middle East was strong last year. That could slow down a little bit this year. But for the whole world, I think after the moly growth that we've seen last year was 12%. I'm talking including scrap. I'm not only looking at the primary moly, but always at the total picture. There was a 12% growth, and I think that this will have this year or a little bit less. So between, let's say, 4 and 6%, this would be our best guess for this year's moly growth.
Can I just ask you where you see prices this year, global prices this year for molybdenum, and possibly moving into 2013?
So, as I said, the demand will grow slow. Yeah. So demand side is there. There's no collapse, but there is no significant growth this year. So it will all depend on the supply side, and the supply side increasingly depends on the byproduct. So how much copper will be produced? That is how much moly you have from that. And on the other side, what is China doing? So now I have to say I think that the fundamentals for moly are better than the fundamentals for nickel. But on the other side, I think the fundamentals are worse than the fundamentals for chromium, for example. So sounds like pretty much somewhere in between, probably rather flat than anything else. Yeah.
But in terms of a price level, where would you see prices for 2012 for dollars a pound?
Well, I tell you, I mean, if you take the first quarter, which is almost coming to an end now, average that out and ride it forward. You know, I think that is pretty much my take. The thing is that I think that from the stainless demand, but stainless is only 20% of moly primary, 27% if you include scrap. Yeah? The stainless probably will have seen the strongest 2 quarters before the summer already. So we are expecting, like in 2011, a downturn in stainless production in the second half of this year. So probably that would mean if you go quarter by quarter, we see a little bit an increase of the price into the summer, and then it would stagnate or probably decline towards the end of the year. Yeah? But no reason for a substantial reduction.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.